Good morning. This morning we're going to go over my garden and talk about what I learned this year. Now, keeping in mind that this is my first summer here, the climate here at 6,600 feet is most nights get down into the low 50s, mid to low 50s, and that's the middle of the summer. The beginning in the fall and the spring and the fall we end up getting much colder than that. Currently being the 11th of September, our overnight lows are running right about 49, 47, somewhere in there. But beyond that, we also have an arid climate. It's an upper plains. It's not a desert per se like Green Dreams has, but it is um, a dry climate. I mean, we don't get hardly any rain until our monsoon seasons, and then it's even that's been hit or miss this year. So anyhow, getting on with my garden and what I learned. One of the first things here is I did this multi bed here. It's got cucumbers, it's got peppers of different sorts, in other words jalapenos, bell peppers, and all of that, and of course tomatoes. You can see we got plenty of tomatoes. So between the peppers and the uh, cucumbers, sorry, my mind's racing way ahead here, but between the cucumbers and the peppers and the tomatoes, one of the first things I've discovered is that there is an issue as far as watering, because the cucumbers and the peppers both want more water than the tomatoes. The problem I have with the tomatoes is because it is so hot here during the day, even though we only get to like 90, but it is such a clear sun, and at this altitude it really bears down when you're not in the shade. So my tomato plants will show a lot of drooping, as in needing water. But the truth of the matter is 50% or better of my tomatoes get thrown away from blossom and rot because they're getting too much water. It's that the sun is so intense in the daytime that it indicates a lack of water, but it's not what it is. So what I'm going to need to do, I think, in the future is put up a trellis that is a cover, like a lattice or something, to try to shade during the daytime, in the middle of the day, so that I don't have that problem of not being able to tell how much water I need to do, because they're always stressed. But I also run into the problem that the cucumbers and the bell peppers, or peppers, need more water than the tomatoes. So I was also overwatering my tomatoes because I was trying to get enough water for my cucumbers and my peppers. So even though they, you see these companion listings as to what grows good with something else, I think some of those don't even take into consideration watering requirements. So in the future, though, I will not plant tomatoes probably with anything, because of the watering requirements are more critical with tomatoes than they are with pretty much any other vegetable. The other thing, if we get down here and look real close, I hope you can see this, is I made these raised beds, and the soil inside is laid level. Now I'm thinking in the future what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to dip it. So when I water, all the water will go into the middle, and all those roots plant on the outer sides, and water in the middle. Because of this arid climate here, I'm watering every other day, and I can't just get a good deep watering. It just doesn't seem to happen. So I'm going to try that next year. Also, I'm going to look at Oyas and how those will work for me. Now these squash, I put in squash, and I put in beets in here. Now I put them on a hill, the squash on a hill, the beets down in a valley on both sides, and that worked out real good. I think it's because the squash plants, the roots went, they grow pretty fast and pretty deep. so they were able to get down into it. So I think that system there worked pretty good. This bed here, oddly enough, my lettuce is doing nothing. This is lettuce and spinach on this side, and beets and chard is going crazy. So whatever, I don't know. I don't get what that's doing. And then over here, this is a bed that I did the cardboard and homemade potting soil on top, and I can see that the cardboard is gone, in case you were curious about that. I don't see any cardboard here, but this area here, you see nothing came up. Yeah, there's a rock there that would have been, so the cardboard did in fact disintegrate, which I really thought it would, or was supposed to. But you can see the amount of grass that came through it. I mean, I even in some areas have little trees coming up that came up in that yeah, weeds and everything. So I'm lost as to what to do next year. I'm thinking I don't want to lose the soil. Do I do another layer of cardboard and come on up with more of the topsoil? I only did about 2 to 4 inches of topsoil, and that's and it grew pretty good. I got fairly good. I got what I would call a medium crop. I didn't get a great crop. I didn't get a bad crop. You know, you can see here my tomatoes here is being in getting into fall here. They're all coming out. These here are pretty much ready to finish harvesting. Now this bed here was not done. It was done with the cardboard, but it was more leaves and compost, which I don't have a lot of compost, so. But I know that the black plastic, this cheap black plastic you can see here, it's disintegrating. It's just falling apart. So I may go to buying the better one, kind of like Pine Knot showed on their video with their ground cover. Hey, a tomato. All right, I'll have to come out here and pick some here in a bit. The other thing that I did as an experiment was with my green beans. These are the pole beans, and I've got 2 areas of them that I grew. These were grown at the same time, or planted at the same time as these green beans. Now these green beans here, I'm getting about a pretty decent crop, maybe a dozen per plant or so. I've got some over there with the chard and the beets too. But here's some more of the pole beans, and you can see there, yeah, there's lots of plant. There's one bean, finally. There's a bean, but I'm getting 1 per plant. Is that right? Is that all? I've never grown pole beans, and I don't really think I ever will again. I'm not real happy with the results there, so we'll see. I don't know, maybe I got bad seeds or a bad year for it or something. But and this is my carrots. I've never grown carrots before. Everybody always said, oh, they're so difficult to get going and everything. They go dry and die because the seeds are so small. I just use the same wood chips I put down there in my chicken coop, and that worked really good. I just put my seed in there and then put a layer of that wood chip on there and just soaked it down till that wood chip got wet, and then I kept the wood chips damp, and the carrots came up really good, obviously. But that is the things that I learned this year. I'm going to do in these styles here. I think next year I want to do like Maritime Gardener. He does the strips here between his plants so you don't have grass and weeds coming up there. But I'll tell you, if you do the cardboard and you do the homemade potting soil, much as I have here, You need to make sure that you get enough cardboard. It's got to be thick enough to stop the grass. You see here, I don't have any grass or anything coming up here. So you want to make sure that you overlap your seams real good and you get a good thick coating of it. You know, I use some of those almost what I would call cereal box cardboard, and that didn't work at all. That's where most of this grass comes up here in this bed, is through that cardboard, so I won't be doing that again. This bed here got so bad I just covered it in plastic to try to kill off all that grass. This was from thin cardboard and just butting it up instead of overlapping it. So next year I will overlap at least 6 inches, maybe 12 inches. But there you go. That's what I learned. I hope it helps somebody else to not make the mistakes I have. And this is pretty much going to be all gone here in about 3 or 4 weeks. We'll get our first frost. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the next one.